Have you ever found yourself doing something small that might be unintentionally pushing others away? As we age, we gain wisdom, experience, and often a deeper sense of what truly matters. But sometimes, habits we've picked up over the years can quietly erode our relationships, dignity, and happiness. These are things no one tells us because they don't want to offend us. But that silence allows these habits to linger for years, even decades. This video is about shining a kind, honest light on those behaviors. Not to shame you, but to empower you. We're diving into 7 habits that many seniors unknowingly carry with them. They're not loud or cruel. In fact, many come from good intentions. But when left unchecked, these habits can become barriers to connection and growth. If you've ever wondered why certain conversations don't go the way you hoped or why some people seem to pull away, these habits might be part of the reason. Recognizing them is the first step to changing that. Stick with us until the end because, by the time we're done, you'll not only learn how to spot these behaviors, but also how to replace them with simple shifts that help you connect better, feel lighter, and carry yourself with the grace and confidence you've earned. You might even recognize a few of these habits in yourself. That's okay. We're here to grow, not judge. Let's get started. Number 1. The habit of constantly comparing everything to the past. There's a certain comfort in the past. The music sounded better, the prices made more sense, and when you've lived through the richness of those decades, it's only natural to look back with fondness. But here's where it turns into a problem. When every present moment is compared to how things used to be, the people around you stop feeling heard, and you start sounding stuck. This habit sneaks in slowly. You hear someone talk about a new way of doing something, and before you realize it, you say, "Well, back in my day, that wouldn't have worked." You might mean it as a point of reflection or wisdom, but it often comes off as dismissive. It sends the message that the present is somehow always falling short. When that becomes the tone of most conversations, people start tuning out. Younger people, especially, may feel judged for simply living in a different time, and they might stop bringing up what excites them because they don't want to hear how it doesn't measure up. Your peers, even those who share your memories, may quietly tire of hearing the same old stories repeated. Take Mike, a 78-year-old former engineer from Chicago. His granddaughter, Emma, came to visit one afternoon and showed him a new app she had been using to track her running distance. Mike's first instinct was to say, "When I was your age, we didn't have time for apps." But instead, he took a moment and said, "That's interesting, show me how it works." An hour later, they were laughing and tracking their progress together, bridging 2 eras through curiosity instead of comparison. The past has shaped you, but it shouldn't shape how you treat the present. There's still life happening right now. Stories are still being written, ideas are being born, and moments are worth embracing. When you meet people where they are, instead of dragging every conversation back to where you were, you keep the connection alive and growing. Let your nostalgia be a bridge, not a barrier. Every generation has its struggles and strengths, yours included. So let your memories inspire stories, not shut down connections. When you do, people will feel invited into your experience, rather than feeling compared against it. Number 2. The habit of constantly talking about health issues. It starts with a small comment, "My back's acting up again," or "I had to visit the doctor." These are perfectly natural things to mention, especially when you're sharing updates with someone close to you. But over time, some people fall into a pattern where nearly every conversation revolves around one thing. What's hurting, what's broken, what's wrong. The problem with this is that when you're constantly talking about your health, especially in casual conversations, it can unintentionally make people feel uncomfortable, overwhelmed, or even helpless. They may care deeply, but they don't always know how to respond. And when they feel like they can't help, they may start distancing themselves, not out of cruelty, but out of emotional exhaustion. Alice, 81, a retired teacher from Arizona, noticed this pattern one afternoon after a lunch with her daughter. They had talked about nothing but Alice's chronic knee pain and medication for the entire meal. Her daughter had barely gotten a word in. Alice realized she hadn't asked a single question about her daughter's life. So, she decided to change. The next time they spoke, Alice started by asking about her daughter's work, then shared her health updates afterward. Their relationship grew warmer, and Alice felt lighter. Sharing your struggles is important, but when those struggles dominate every conversation, the space for joy and connection shrinks. The key isn't to stop sharing, it's about balance. Ask about others, share memories, and offer thoughts about the world beyond your aches. Your health is part of your story, but it doesn't have to be the whole book. Number 3, the habit of saying, "I already know." There's a moment in conversations, especially across generations, that can shut everything down before it even begins. Someone shares a story, a fact, or a lesson, and before they can finish, you say, "Oh, I already know that." It may seem innocent enough. You've lived a long life, gathered much knowledge, and yes, much of what people share may feel familiar. But here's the truth, "I already know," can be a conversation killer. When you say this, what others hear is that there's no room for their voice. It makes people feel like their experiences and stories aren't valuable, and over time, they stop sharing. Take Sam, 75, a retired firefighter from California. One day, his grandson excitedly told him about a history lesson he just learned. Sam knew the facts well, but instead of brushing it off, he said, "That's interesting. Tell me more." This simple change transformed their conversation into an enriching exchange that deepened their bond. The sharpest people stay curious and make space for others, not just give statements. Instead of saying, "I already know," try, "That's interesting. What made you think about that?" It invites connection, shows openness, and values the other person's perspective. Number 4, the habit of dismissing new ideas or technology. We've all heard the jokes. Older people can't use smartphones, don't like change, and think the world's moving too fast. But the truth is, those aren't facts, they're stereotypes. The more we buy into them, the more we start to live by them. It starts subtly, a new phone feature, a grocery store self-checkout, or an unfamiliar app. The instinct kicks in, "I don't need that. That stuff's for kids. I've gotten along just fine without it." On the surface, this feels like confidence. But underneath, it's often a defense against feeling lost or left behind. There's no shame in not knowing how something works, but when we turn that discomfort into rejection, we do two things. We stop growing, and we cut ourselves off from the people around us, especially younger people who use those tools daily. Imagine being at a family dinner, where everyone's laughing about something shared in a group chat, but you're not included because group chats feel too complicated. Or a friend sends you a link to register for an event, but you dismiss it because, "I don't do things online." Each time you opt out, a small piece of connection is lost. It doesn't mean you have to love every new thing, but when you consistently meet newness with resistance instead of curiosity, people stop trying to include you. Linda, 72, had never touched a tablet before. Her granddaughter gave her one, and at first, Linda scoffed, "What would I need this for?" But after giving it a try, she now reads the news on it every morning, video chats with friends across the country, and watches old films with subtitles. Linda said, "I didn't realize how much more connected I could feel." Stay open to learning. When you say, "Show me," instead of, "I'm too old for that," you open up a whole new world. The key is flexibility, not just in gadgets, but in mindset. Number 5, the habit of oversharing personal details with strangers. There's a fine line between being open and being overwhelming, and as we age, that line can start to blur. You meet someone new at the pharmacy, or sit next to a stranger at a community event, and before you know it, you've shared your entire medical history, 3 family conflicts, and the full account of your neighbor's divorce, all in just a few minutes. Now, there's nothing wrong with being friendly. Many seniors grew up in a time when talking to strangers was part of everyday life. But what often goes unnoticed is that times and social norms have changed, and what used to feel like neighborly conversation can now come across as too much, too soon. Oversharing tends to happen when we're craving connection, when loneliness creeps in, or when we haven't had a meaningful conversation in a while. Tom, 74, struck up a conversation at the gym with a younger man. Within 10 minutes, Tom had shared his recent surgery, how he no longer spoke to one of his sons, and how his last 3 birthdays were lonely. The young man listened politely, but never returned to that conversation. Healthy connection needs balance. Instead of diving straight into your deepest personal challenges, start small. Ask a question, share something light, and give the other person a chance to share, too. This approach builds a rhythm of exchange, not a monologue. Number 6, the habit of dominating conversations with long stories. Storytelling is one of the great gifts that come with age. You've lived through moments others have only read about. But when storytelling turns into conversation domination, it becomes something else entirely. Barbara, 78, loved sharing stories from her time as a nurse, but her family and friends eventually grew tired of the endless monologues. One day, her daughter said, "Mom, I love your stories, but I miss talking with you, not just listening to you." That simple change made Barbara realize she could still share, but she also needed to ask questions and make room for others in the conversation. Number 7. The habit of judging others too quickly based on appearance or choices. Judging others is a reflex, subtle and often unnoticed. We might judge someone by their clothes, tattoos, or the lifestyle they lead. But when we judge too quickly, we create barriers to connection. Richard, 81, noticed his granddaughter drifting away because he often made comments about her clothes and lifestyle. When she finally told him, "Grandpa, I don't feel safe being myself around you," Richard listened, and their relationship transformed. Instead of judging, Richard began asking, "What's your story?" When you stop judging and start being curious, you create space for connection. Every person you meet has walked a road you haven't. Your judgments don't define them, they define you. As we wrap up this video, take a quiet moment to reflect. Which of these habits did you recognize in yourself? It's not about blame or shame, it's about awareness and the chance to grow. With awareness, we can make different choices. So, as you go through your week, pick one of these habits and catch yourself in the moment. Notice, breathe, and choose something different. That small act, done again and again, rewrites patterns and creates space for better relationships. Thank you for joining us today. Let us know in the comments what you learned and how you plan to use it. Your thoughts mean a lot to us. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating content that inspires and informs.